We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
You are listening to The Underground Marketing Conspiracy, a secret ritual where entrepreneurs acquire highly classified and confidential business knowledge that the top 1% of income earners don't want you to know. And now, your host, Maddie Milligan.
What is going on, my fellow conspirator and conspirators? Welcome to The Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Ooh. I've been reading this book, Over Deliver by Brian Kurtz. And it is definitely one of the best marketing books that I've ever read. I'm listening to the audiobook. I'm about, I'd say 3 hours in, so maybe a third or so into it. I think it's just under 9 hours long or so, and it is some next level stuff. This guy's been in the game for a long time. He's one of these old school marketers who started in, I think he said, the late 80s, early 90s, and he started out where he was working in, I believe it was like a junior copywriter, and he was a list manager. So he would just manage the different lists from the company. If you're not familiar with lists are, back in the day with direct response, when the internet didn't exist, you were dealing with lots of mail order marketing, right? You're sending out mail directly to people. So he would manage the different lists of people. And this guy goes in deep so far. He just talks about the relationships that you're building with your list, and that's the most important part. But he touched on this point that I thought was so important, and I just had to talk about this today. So many people with marketing, they think that the most important part is the copywriting, right? I think copywriting is very important. And then he's like, oh, that's not it though. And other people are like, oh, you know what? It's the offer. But it's like, no, it's not the offer, right? Offer is part of it. It's like, okay, is it the design? Is that the part? And it's like, no, it's not the design. It's not the design either. Right? It's like, okay, is it the personal brand from the person? It's like, no, that's not the most important part, right? You want to know what the most important part is? It's understanding human behavior. When you understand people, when you understand all the different emotions they have, when you really understand what makes them tick, you're just going to become a better marketer. Now, how do you understand better people? I would say that you start interacting with them more. You get into more social engagements with people, right? More social interactions, more one-on-one time with people, and really just get to know them and really see what they're about. And people are really all the same, right? When people are really hungry, they all want to eat. Quickest way to someone's heart, at pretty much anyone, is to give them some awesome food, right? If they're hungry or they're thirsty, you just give it to them, right? If they need shelter, give it to them. Very simple stuff, but that's a very quick way to build rapport. But so many people skip that step. They just want to skip that whole part and just go for the sale right away. They want to skip what Rachel Peterson calls the relationship funnel, right? They just want to completely avoid that step. And you can't do that. You can't be spammy. You just can't do that stuff. You have to get people's permission as well to actually market to them. And I've talked about this before, but there's the 3 temperatures of traffic, right? There's cold, there's warm, and there's hot. So cold traffic, people don't know who you are. They don't even necessarily know that they have a problem. They're probably not problem aware necessarily. So you need to educate them, right? You need to get them to know a little bit more about the problem. And then once they understand that that problem exists, then you can introduce the solution and your product. And at that point, you can also talk about yourself. But so many people, they just talk to their audience like they're in their hot market. And I do this a lot too. I'm still haven't mastered stuff. I'm working on it very hard. But when I look at campaigns and why they don't work, I'm like, oh man, like I skipped that one thing. It's like, oh, I communicate with them like they were hot, but they were warm. And you can't beat yourself up on this. It's really something where you can't do that. But there's a few books that I would really recommend that anyone read. And they're actually by the same author. So the first one of my favorites is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. He goes really in deep, and he talks about how having emotional intelligence is just as, if not more important than having a really high IQ. And emotional intelligence is multiple factors. It can be your ability to delay gratification. This is a big thing that's missing in our society. It can be your ability to just empathize with other people, which is really just being able to sense and feel what they are. And women are a lot better than men at that, right? You've noticed probably. Women are just a lot more emotionally intelligent naturally than men. It's probably because of just the motherly ability that a lot of women have. And they can just sense when people are happy or sad, and they can just feel it, right? And that's what a lot of people like. They just want to kind of suck money out of people, but they skip that step. They don't have that emotional intelligence, right? They don't understand people. And I think a big problem is they don't understand themselves, right? They just want that instant gratification in a lot of cases, right? In a lot of cases, it's just getting that sale and getting money quickly, but it takes time, man. It's something you have to put in a lot of work to and go through all sorts of things. And that makes it good. If your story was like, hey, I was born into being this rich person and I tried the first time and I won, yay, and then I tried again and I won again. It's like, that's boring. One of the main ingredients in having an awesome movie is you have a character, and the other ingredient is he gets into all sorts of conflict, right? He struggles. This is why Lord of the Rings is such a good series of books. It's why Back to the Future is such a good series of movies, right? It's why Jurassic Park is such a good movie. All of these stories, the main characters get into some sort of conflict and they struggle through these very scary situations, right? And they encounter death, and in the meantime, they also grow. This is part of the hero's journey, but that's what everyone has to go through. And I've seen a lot of people where they've had it all and they've never struggled, and when something bad happens, it's like they just don't know what to do. But then I see people where they go through something really badly, and then in their mind, they're like, oh, this isn't as bad as those other things that have actually happened to me. So for them, it's not, they can handle it because they've built up that emotional intelligence, right? Second book by Daniel Goleman is Social Intelligence, and this book is very good. He touches a lot in that book too about different personality types and really how to build rapport with people. And he talks about how communication is 93% of it is nonverbal. And I have a friend on LinkedIn. He's this expert here in Toronto who is a body language expert. And he tries to debunk a few of the myths, but in some cases I agree with him, some cases I don't. But in emotional intelligence, he talks about mirror neurons, and this is essentially these things that human beings have in our brains and monkeys have, right? So, and he gives the example of when you see, let's say you see a skateboarder, right? And it's like a video where he's about to get into an accident, and you see him and he goes down some stairs and falls and like really hurts himself. You go like, oh man, right? Because your mirror neurons are kind of feeling what the bad stuff that happened to him, right? So when you see someone in pain, those mirror neurons kick in, and that's essentially where you kind of for a second can feel the pain that other person had, right? Same thing when you see someone smile and they're really happy, it makes you smile, right? When you see like a very happy, smiley baby, you're very likely to smile at the same time. But I think I would recommend going and reading those books. It's going to help you understand and even over-deliver as well. I would recommend reading, honestly, all of these books, right? Studying Human Psychology. Another great book that I recommend is Thinking Fast and Slow by, I think it's Daniel Kahneman. Absolutely fantastic book. That book was hard to get through. There's a dumbed down version of it by this other guy, Dan McCraney, called You're Not So Smart, and he goes over all of these biases. And those books are great because they really help you understand yourself. And like a lot of people, I think, when you actually go and study all this stuff, you just understand how people work. And human psychology has not changed much, as I've said before, in a long time, which is why I always recommend studying a lot of the older marketing before you study the new stuff. Because a lot of that stuff, you'll notice, just works on a very basic level, basic level. And when you see that stuff, you'll kind of be like, oh, okay, now I see why that stuff works. And once you start understanding people and their needs and their desires and really what motivates them, doors just absolutely open for you. It just makes stuff so much better, right? Now, obviously, if you're selling products and services, you still have to deliver on what you're promising people, but it's just going to make it to do that. And obviously, you could take this stuff and use it in an evil way. Again, I really wouldn't recommend doing that because karma will come back and get you. But the most misunderstood and overlooked part of marketing, in my opinion, is not understanding human behavior. You have to study humans, right? You have to make it kind of your obsession. I used to do this thing too, where I would go to Yonge and Dundas, one of the main intersections here in Toronto, and I would just like watch people. And I would be them, and I'm like, okay, like, who is this person, right? Like, where are they going? What's motivating them? Like, who are the other people in their life? Just based on the way that they would move, the way that they were interacting with other people, kind of the clothes that they were wearing. And I would just kind of think, like, where are they going? I used to have this job where I would stand downtown at the busiest intersection and sell double-decker bus tour tickets in the street. Absolutely loved that job because it just made me comfortable around people. And I just got to talk to people all day and see how they moved and walked. And you'll notice that there's never two people that are alike. No two people have the same walking pattern. And I could always identify the people who worked in the area versus the people who were clearly tourists, right? Who were the people, again, and the tourists were the people I was trying to sell to. So I wouldn't even waste my time trying to sell to the locals because they're not going to want a bus tour. But I would see these tourists like staring at all the skyscrapers and trying to figure out where the CN Tower was. And I'd be like, yep, there we are. Like, these are my people. And I would just get in front of them and stop them in the street, talk with them for a bit, build a little bit of rapport, joke around, and then eventually they would buy from me. Obviously, sometimes they would keep going. I would have people, though, where they could buy from other people, but they just liked me so much that they would actually come and buy from me. And I think, again, a lot of that just comes from the fact that I've taken the time to really just study this stuff, right? I've read a lot of books. I understand people. I think at this point in my life, I really understand myself as well and really what motivates me. And that helps me relate to other people on a very deep level. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. If you did, consider subscribing, really your decision, no pressure there whatsoever. Additionally, if you want to leave a review, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Maybe you want to listen to a few more episodes and share this with a friend. My name is Matty Milligan. If you want to find out more about me, you can visit mattymilligan.com. And I will see you next time on another episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Ooh.